Our next request comes from Steve Kidd, who asks that I do the second to last traditional 2D animated theatrical film from Disney, The Princess and the Frog. Home on the Range was supposed to be the last Disney film to be traditionally animated, but fresh from acquiring Pixar in 2006, Ed Catmull and John Lasseter decided to reverse that decision. They even said that their creative teams should be able to choose what style they wanted, but sadly that didn't last. That said, The Princess and the Frog was the result of combining Disney and Pixar projects regarding the classic fairy tale by E.D. Baker. One version wanted to take place in Chicago, the other in New Orleans. I mean, they've done a lot of European-style fairy tales. Why not do an American one instead? The movie also offered the chance to deviate from the norms of other Disney princess movies. Hence, we would have John Musker and Ron Clements putting together a story that can still fit with traditional animation. And how did it turn out? Let's find out as we look at The Princess and the Frog. We open at a mansion one night where a lady named Eudora, voiced by Oprah Winfrey, is telling the story of the Frog Prince to two girls. One of them is the girl who lives in the place, Charlotte LaBeouf, or Lottie, while the other is Eudora's daughter, Tiana. Lottie is someone you'd think would turn out really bad later because she's literally a spoiled rich girl, but she's actually really fun-loving once she grows up sounding like Jennifer Cody.
Come on, kiss. No. Kissing. Stop. I won't. I would do it. I would kiss a frog.
Tiana, whose adult version is voiced by Anika Noni Rose, is a lot sweeter at this point and is close friends with Lottie. It's a similar dynamic between Eudora and Big Daddy LaBeouf, voiced by John Goodman, as he is the rare, good, and rich white guy who will gladly hire Eudora to make dresses for his little daughter.
No more Mr. Pushover. Now who wants a puppy?
I do.
Of course, taking place just before and during the Roaring '20s, social and living conditions for African Americans were not up to par with those of their white counterparts. But because this is a children's movie, those disparities are kind of downplayed. For now, we are introduced to Tiana's father, James, voiced by Terrence Howard, a loving family man who teaches his daughter how to cook.
You know, the thing about good food, it brings folks together from all walks of life. It warms them right up and it puts little smiles on their faces.
Torgo would love to meet you. This scene is meant to establish Tiana's future goal to start a successful restaurant, something her father also wanted. They see a star, and while they acknowledge how it's okay to wish on a star, James also adds,
That old star can only take you part of the way. You gotta help it along with some hard work of your own, and then, yeah, you can do anything you set your mind to.
This makes for a balanced perspective about the importance of both working and dreaming. There are things outside your control to make a dream come true, but you have to also prepare yourself for when those opportunities arise. After a funny freak out with a frog, we skip ahead to the year 1926, where Tiana is now grown up and working 2 jobs to save up money for that dream restaurant. And if that medal and war photo of her father means anything, he must have died in World War I. As she moves from finishing one job and heading to her next, also high carpet from Aladdin, we get our first major song of the movie that's actually a reprise of the prologue music from Anika herself, though this time Dr. John is singing.
There's a city way down on the river where the women are very pretty.
It helps establish our setting as bustling and full of music and culture. Of course, much like the prologue, how much this reflects real-life New Orleans during the 1920s is debatable, and I'm not the one to nitpick on that subject. I just love how the music and animation are in sync with each other. We're also shown our main antagonist, Dr. Facilier, aka the Shadowman, voiced by Keith David, who is a shady magician of sorts looking to scam people. He especially has his eyes on Big Daddy LaBeouf, who's so rich that he gives out wads of cash to newspaper kids. Seriously, a rich white guy supporting the African American community this extensively? That's either rare or non-existent. especially in the Roaring '20s. Then there's Prince Naveen of Maldonia, voiced by Bruno Campos. He's on his last stop of his tour of the US and will likely attend a masquerade ball hosted by the LaBeoufs. And you can tell that Lottie's excited because she thinks she'll get to marry him. Before that though, Tiana was invited to go dancing with her friends, but she turns them down because she needs to work and save money for her restaurant. And she works so hard that she doesn't even find time for herself. Then there's this asshole chef telling her to give up on her dreams.
Where are my flapjacks?
You got about as much chance of getting that restaurant as I do of winning the Kentucky Derby. Woo-hoo! Saddle me up, y'all. It's post time. Get up.
But Lottie shows up to hire Tiana, paying her up front to bake some bagnettes for the upcoming party. And it's enough money for her to buy the building she wanted for her restaurant.
I'm getting my restaurant.
Oh, tonight my prince is finally coming.
Eudora congratulates Tiana by presenting her their old cooking pot. It's very touching, though the mother is worried about her daughter's over-enthusiasm and makes that known to her.
Tiana, your daddy may not have gotten the place he always wanted, but he had something better. He had love, and that's all I want for you, sweetheart.
Even she believes Tiana should treat herself, since the rest of the family is backing her. It's followed by another really good song, Almost There.
I know exactly where I'm going. I'm getting closer and closer every day, and I'm almost there. I'm almost there.
What's there to say, even? I love the art style used in her old picture, while the instrumentals mesh really well with her singing voice. And it shows that despite the hardships she went through, her dream is so close to becoming true. Many songs for this movie were composed by Randy Newman, who grew up in New Orleans and would have experience with jazz music. And given his experience with Broadway-styled movies like Cats Don't Dance, it makes this scene feel like a Broadway musical. It could have been my favorite song in the movie, if not for another one coming up. Anyway, we shift over to Prince Naveen, who is partying it up with the locals. We learn from his valet, Lawrence, that he's actually flat broke because, as we learn later, his parents disowned him. So he's thinking about marrying Lottie for the money. They then bump into Dr. Fusilier, who takes them to his personal place of business on the promise of making dreams real. Lawrence doesn't really trust him, but as Fusilier begins his personal song, Friends on the Other Side, he gets them to enter his creepy yet stylish pad.
Put your mind at ease. If you relax, it will enable me to do anything I please.
Oh yeah, his shadow acts on its own. He's like the anti-Peter Pan in that regard, and I just love this sequence in general. The song is building up to something, but in the meantime, Fusilier just seems like a smooth and cool magician with interesting hobbies, including his tarot readings. Through said tarot, Naveen's family troubles and his desire for freedom are revealed, as well as Lawrence's desires to gain some respect for all the crap he's been put through as a valet. This gets Fusilier's mind turning, and then... Now he's reminding me of Baron Samedi from Haitian Voodoo. But yeah, while Almost There is a good song in its own right, this last sequence pushes Friends on the Other Side as my favorite song in the movie. Just look at this. It is oozing with color and flavor. I love it. We cut to Lottie's party, and she's just anxious about Naveen showing up. Again, with how she is sometimes, you would think she would be a twist villain, but trust me, she doesn't. She may be a spoiled rich girl, but she's also funny and generous. Naveen shows up after Lottie was wishing on a star, so that gets Tiana thinking.
Evening, Tiana. Marvelous party.
Evening, Mr. Finner. And Mr. Finner.
Oh right, these two. They're the ones who sold Tiana the building earlier and even agreed to bring the signing papers tonight. Well, about that.
Fella came in, offered the full amount in cash.
How long it took me to save that money?
Exactly. Which is why a little woman of your background...
That's the closest this movie gets to acknowledging systematic racism in this era. While Tiana tries to change their minds, she falls over and gets dirty. Lottie gives her friend a new dress which resembles what she wore in the cover art, which shows that she can be a supportive friend. Of course, now Tiana wonders if she'll ever reach her goals. I mean, she could ask Lottie, but maybe it's not that simple. So she decides to copy Lottie by wishing on a star. A frog then shows up and she sarcastically asks if it wants a kiss.
Kissing would be nice, yes?
You know what? Fair reaction. Plus, she always had a distaste for kissing frogs. Turns out this frog is Prince Naveen. But he has to try explaining himself while Tiana throws stuff at him, which is hilarious. Naveen is then reminded of the Frog Prince story when he sees Tiana holding a book about it. He now thinks that if she kisses him, he'll turn back into a prince.
All women enjoy the kiss of Prince Naveen. Come, we pack her.
You a silly prince, you know that? Tiana's unwilling to take his offer, but he then pretends that he's wealthy and that he could probably reward her with whatever she wants. So she agrees to kiss him, only after taking a moment to gather the courage to do so.
Faldi Faldonza.
How'd I get way down here and all this?
Well, this story was influenced by the Frog Princess fairy tale too. So, Tiana becoming a frog is part of a recurring movie trend of non-white characters turning into non-human beings for a good portion of the runtime. Unlike something like Turning Red, where you still had the characters be human most of the time, we only spent a half hour with human Tiana before she becomes a frog for almost the rest of the movie. I get it though, this fairy tale has someone turn into a frog. I just kind of wonder how long Tiana would stay a frog if she wasn't African American. Speaking of Tiana, she tries strangling Naveen for being an idiot, but they get flung outside because they're frogs and are forced to fend off Lottie's family dog.
Wait, Stella! Stella, it's me, Tiana! Tiana?
Oh yeah, when you're an animal, you can talk to other animals. Not really that surprising. Dr. Fossilier sees the two frogs escape and talks to the Naveen doppelganger, who turns out to be Lawrence in disguise thanks to a magical necklace from the doctor.
Careful with that! Anything happens to this, I'm gonna be...
Fun fact about voodoo, Larry. Can't conjure a thing for myself.
That's why the Dark Spear Trolls always say to stay away from voodoo. And considering that Fossilier is more like a warlock at this point, I imagine bad things will happen if you break something of his. We then learn of his evil plan. Lawrence is supposed to marry Lottie to inherit her family fortune, half of which will later be split to Fossilier. He talks about a big game about his motives being about rich people looking down on poor people like him, but I think there's more to it. Either way, as long as they have enough of Naveen's blood powering the trinket, they'll be fine. Over to our frogs, Tiana learns that Naveen made a deal with Fossilier. He learns that Tiana isn't a princess, but a waitress. To be fair, he should have known better since this was a costume party, though he gloats that he's not rich anyway.
But they cut me off for being a leech!
You're broke? And you had the gall to call me a lie?
They still argue as they get attacked by wildlife, but Tiana makes an offer. If she helps Naveen get married to Lottie, he'll get Tiana that restaurant.
Quick, put me up! You can hop, but you can't hop!
Looks like we're going to be here for a while, so we may as well get comfortable.
Keep your slimy self away from me!
I told you, it is not slime, it is mucus!
Prince Naveen, idiot is he, why don't you die? Next morning, Tiana builds a raft for them to navigate the swamp. Naveen doesn't help at all and just plays a makeshift banjo. This seems to attract another gator, but...
I know that tune! Dipper Mouth Blues!
What is this, Trumpet of the Gator? This is Lewis, voiced by Michael Leon Woolley, who learned to play the trumpet from listening to people on the bayou. He wanted to perform with them, but...
It didn't end well.
Upon learning who the frogs are and that they're under a spell, Lewis tells them about a voodoo queen named Mama Odie that might help them. He won't take them, but changes his mind when Naveen tempts him with the idea that she can turn him human, thus leading to our next song.
If I were a human being, I'd head straight for New Orleans, and I'd blow Mr. Sidney Bechet. All those boys gonna step aside when they hear this old ex-skater play. Listen.
This is another bopper of a song. I should note that the trumpet parts are done by Terrence Blanchard, who composed for various Spike Lee movies like Malcolm X, Clockers, and Inside Man. The song is a really good summary on what everyone wants once they turn back into humans. Back over to the estate, Lawrence successfully proposes to Lottie as planned, but his disguise as Levine is starting to fail due to a lack of Le Prince's blood. So what will Fusilier do about that?
I'm reduced to asking for help from my friends on the other side.
Now, I know this is in reference to African diasporic traditions, but since it's also in Warcraft, either he's getting help from Blomsamdi or Muazala. Back to our heroes, Naveen gets hungry and he ends up trying to eat mosquitoes like a frog. Tiana tries to do the same, curse you instincts, and almost gets this firefly and gets her tongue tangled with Naveen. Lewis makes it worse, so they get help from the firefly they almost ate, who's voiced by Jim Cummings.
Hang on, Cap. I'm just gonna give a little switch. Getting to know each other now.
He introduces himself as Ray, who is very Cajun sounding. He learns of their plight and tells them that they went the wrong way.
What kind of chucklehead told y'all to go this way?
I found a stick!
Cause Lewis is a dumbass. Ray shows them the way with the aid of his friends and family.
We're gonna take it down, we're gonna take it all the way down. We're gonna take it down, we're gonna take it down, we're gonna take it all the way.
We have a lot of songs so far, but this is a short sequence and Tiana needed some time outside of work anyway. We see Fusilier talking to the Voodoo Mask Council for help with Lawrence's necklace. When the latter refuses to help, our big bad promises to kill LaBeouf after the wedding to take control of New Orleans with Larry's help. Then he's planning to sell everyone's soul to the voodoo gods as a form of repayment. This is enough for the council to change its mind, so it sends out some shadow monsters to hunt down Naveen. Well, assuming these three dunderheads don't get him first.
But they taste real good with the sauce piquant, right, Pop?
You keep quiet.
Oh.
We get more arguing between our romantic leads, with Naveen being chided for his laziness, while Tiana is called out for being a stick in the mud. Then the hillbillies attack and capture the latter, but Naveen manages to save her before escaping together. This rescue brings those two a little closer, and Tiana at least agrees to make food for him. Naveen is forced into helping and sees how good of a cook she is, even as he realizes that he's not too shabby on that front, too.
But when you live in a castle, everything is done for you. I admit it was a charmed life until the day my parents cut me off, and suddenly I realized I don't know how to do anything.
That's what happens when you leave home without guidance. You actually have to do stuff. This helps Tiana understand Naveen better, and once everyone eats, we learn about Ray's girlfriend. He called her Evangeline, but it's actually the Evening Star.
My belle Evangeline. That ain't no pop. So
Even he knows not to ruin the moment. He has his own faith and love, plus he's literally insect-brained. So whatever motivates him in life is fine. This gets Naveen and Tiana in the mood for a dance, and we get a reversal of Tiana being the one having to learn something new. So now it's Naveen's turn to encourage her how to dance.
love is beautiful. Love is wonderful. Love is everything.
They are growing fond of each other organically, even if Tiana isn't quite ready to commit to him yet. However, the shadow monsters eventually show up to take Naveen, until they get zapped by some light magic. But who done it?
Not bad for a 197-year-old blind lady.
Oh my god, it's Sugar Mama! No, this is Mama Odie, voiced by Jennifer Lewis. She's rather eccentric, but I like her a lot. Tiana and Naveen beg to be turned back into humans, but Odie questions if that is what they really want, with a song.
You gotta dig a little deeper. Find out who you are. When you find out who you are, you find out what you need. Blue skies and sunshine guaranteed.
So Naveen needs to learn self-control, which can be helped by being around Tiana, while Tiana needs to better understand what her mom told her about her friends and family being there for her, and that their happiness together is all that they really need. But this is how she interpreted the sequence.
I need to dig a little deeper and work even harder to get my restaurant.
You poor, poor woman. Regardless, Odie shows our heroes a vision about what to do to get their bodies back. To break the spell, Naveen has to kiss a princess. And that's none other than Lottie, who's been made princess for a day because her father is made the king of Mardi Gras. Clever. Louis proposes they ride a riverboat to get back to New Orleans. And that boat just so happens to have a costume party going on. So now he can finally play with people. Naveen is given some time to think about Odie's advice. He realizes that he's fallen for Tiana and wants to propose to her, even if it means losing their chance at returning to normal. He even tries setting up a date night and goes through the trouble of preparing everything. And he does get a chance to express how he feels. But she talks about her current situation with the restaurant after a little bit.
If I don't deliver that money first thing tomorrow, I lose this place forever.
So yeah, Naveen is willing to give up his love for her to help her achieve her dreams. But even Tiana is starting to wonder if the restaurant is what she really wants at this point. There's not much time to mull over things though, as the shadow monsters return to take Naveen. The villains draw out some of his blood, and this is where Ray tells Tiana about the prince's change of heart towards her. Tiana becomes happy with the revelation, and when everyone gets back to Mardi Gras, she sees a human Naveen with Lottie. We know that this is Lawrence in disguise, but this causes Tiana's heart to break. And in her grief, she tells Ray the reality that Evangeline is nothing but a star and isn't real.
Open your eyes now, before you get hurt.
Any faith she had before is gone, so I don't really blame her at this point. Ray tries confronting not Naveen and learns that the real one is locked in a chest right behind him. The prince is freed soon after, and now they must try and interrupt the wedding between Lottie and the fake Naveen. Larry decides to go into the chapel and kill Naveen, but when Thassalir interrupts, Naveen grabs the necklace and gives it to Ray. This causes the shadows to chase him down, which leads to all of them getting back to Tiana. Ray warns Tiana to keep the thing away from the Shadow Man while he deals with the shadows. He actually holds his own for a bit, given his big old light ass, but then... Well, that got dark. Tiana gets cornered, so she threatens to smash the talisman. So to stop that from happening, Thassalir conjures up an illusion of her human self managing her dream restaurant. He also guilts her into giving her the talisman by making mentions of her late father and how his dreams never left his front porch.
But you can give your poor daddy everything he ever wanted. Come on, Tiana. You're almost there.
This was part of why I love Dr. Thassalir as a villain. Sure, he can be pretty intimidating with his magic and voodoo power, but his ability to manipulate people emotionally is what makes him truly frightening. We know he's lying or full of it, but Tiana is so heartbroken and desperate that she isn't thinking straight. But then she realizes that despite his failures, her father still had everything he could want. So she prepares to smash the talisman until the shadows stop her. Yep, she's screwed.
Spend the rest of your life being a slimy little frog.
It's not slime, it's mucus!
No!
Callback. And now it's time for Thassalir to meet his end. It's almost midnight, and Naveen must kiss Lottie before she is no longer a princess. And despite a rough introduction, Lottie believes his story and prepares to go through with the kiss. But then Tiana steps in to try and stop them because her dream wouldn't be complete without Naveen by her side. Yep, she's fallen for him too.
Warts and all.
What's and all?
All my life, I read about true love and fairy tales and... Tia, you found it. I'll kiss him. For you, honey. No marriage required.
Told you she wouldn't be bad, but midnight strikes and it's too late. No amount of kisses from her will help them now. And to make matters worse, Louis found Ray and, yeah, he's gonna die.
Evangeline, like that too.
This might seem a bit overkill, but I think it works, because after they ship his corpse off along the bayou, the clouds part, and there's now a second star next to Evangeline. Guess his love brought him that much closer to her. Anyway, Mama Odie later holds a wedding for Tiana and Naveen, both of whom have accepted their fate as frogs. But right after kissing, they return to normal and in new outfits. Because marrying a prince does make you a princess, so the curse is lifted.
You just kissed yourself a princess.
And I'm about to do it again.
Then there's another human wedding for all to see, and they even get the Fenners to sell the property to them with Lewis's help. And together, the newlyweds turn the rundown building into Tiana's palace. Then we get one last reprisal of the New Orleans song from before.
Dreams do come true when you
And then the Great Depression happened. Anyway, this is a really good movie. Despite turning the main characters into frogs for almost an hour of screen time, it's at least a unique take on the Frog Princess fairy tale. Tiana is very endearing as someone wanting to accomplish her goals in an era that made it hard for her to do so, while Naveen starts off fun and dim-witted before coming into his own by learning how to take care of himself. Dr. Fossilier is also an incredibly charismatic villain, and the supporting cast is also good at providing for the plot. The film also uses and mixes a variety of animation styles, kind of like a cross between older looks from Lady and the Tramp or even Bambi, to something inspired by Art Deco that fits with the story and its setting. Combine all that with excellent music and voice performances, this should have been a great starting point for Disney to return to traditional animation once in a while. But as mentioned, it was not meant to be. Their last traditionally animated movie was the 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie, which didn't do well commercially. So the studio would continue to mostly use CGI style indefinitely. Though a return to traditional animation every once in a while isn't out of the question, of course. It's just not in theatrical form. On the plus side, this movie did eventually get some much-deserved media and tie-in material. It was announced in 2020 that they would be retheming Splash Mountain into a Princess and the Frog ride called Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which I'm sure was mostly received well and not bogged down by racist backlash. And by the time this video goes up, it should already be open. Also, assuming Disney doesn't do anything stupid, we'll eventually get that animated sequel series on Disney+. Because while Disney flopped recently with Wish, it's nice to see one of its underappreciated movies get a little more attention. I want nothing less than the best for Tiana, because she deserves everything in the world. That's how good she is, and that's how good her movie was. Tune in next time for when we get a look at, Swan Princess Christmas at this time of year?